The Toronto Maple Leafs have made multiple moves ahead of what is going to be the busiest month of the season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to break down those moves, discuss the impact going forward, as well as multiple injury updates. And we also have some interesting comments from William Nylander. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you're a part of the percent who aren't subscribed to the channel, about 70% of you who are watching are not subscribed. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers, and we're getting closer and closer. So make sure to hit that button. Darius, there's a lot to discuss today. It is December 1st, which means it is the start of the busiest month of the year for the Toronto Maple Leafs. November was pretty, dead in the sense of what it usually is regarding games. There was not many games played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but now things are really going to start picking up. They play 4 times this upcoming week, starting tomorrow, and we have a lot of things that have come out since their big win yesterday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, wasn't there for the post-game stream. Shout out to Darius for that, but there was a lot of positives there, which we can discuss a little bit as well. But let's start with this. So Alex Steeves has been sent down. They've sent down Alex Steeves and placed Bobby McMann on injured reserve to free up roster spots for Matthews and, of course, Matthew Knies. And per the NHL CBA, Steeves can be reassigned to the Marlies without clearing waivers, as he has played fewer than 10 NHL games, which means now the earliest Bobby McMann can return is December 6th against the Washington Capitals. So a bunch of things to go over here. Obviously, some interesting stuff. We saw Matthews, he's back, all these different things. But in light of Austin Matthews being back, we also saw Bobby McMann go out with on the IR. So he's going to miss at least another week. What are your thoughts on these moves? And what's going to be a very busy month? It's going to be very important for this team to get healthy.
Yeah, more injuries on the way, unfortunately, for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it's going to be a busy month, and they're going to have to find a way to win a lot of these games. But they're going to get healthy about halfway through the month, and we'll get to that in a bit. But there was a lot of confusion around Alex Steeves. I was certain that he was probably going to be one of the first guys to go back down. I said maybe Gerbankin as well, but it is Alex Steeves, and it's because, it's really easy to move him down. I think there was a lot of confusion about that. Maybe you'd have to clear waivers, but that is not the case. He hadn't been up long enough, and he hadn't played enough games, so he gets sent back down. And I think that's the reason that they did that. If they need him again, they can call him back up, right? So send him back to the Marlies, allow him to get some games in. The lineup's doing their thing. Matthews came back. Knies came back. Obviously, they're going to play. So, and they had great impacts in the game against Tampa Bay. I'm expecting them to be big for the Leafs this coming month. Again, Matthews had 2 assists last night, and obviously Knies scored a goal. So, as they get players back, as they get healthy, they're just going to be that much better. And unfortunately, for the guys that came up from the Marlies, they're going to one by one slowly be sent back down, I'm sure, over the next couple of weeks. Because don't forget, Pacioretty's coming back as well. McMahon's going to be back this week or as soon as this week. Unfortunately, he had to go on IR. It sounded like he could have played probably one of these games, but to make the salary work, he had to go on the IR. So they're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. And, McCabe is okay, which is a good thing. At least we're not losing another guy to injury.
Yeah, we saw a very extended look of the Marlies guys. Alex Steeves and obviously Nikita Gerbankin. We're still seeing them. Fraser Minton to a degree. So Alex Nylander as well. So there's a lot of guys who got extended opportunities, but now, like you mentioned, everyone's starting to get healthy. Austin Matthews back, Matthew Knies back, and their impact was immediately shown. Obviously, Matthew Knies scored the first goal in yesterday's game, and then you got to see Austin Matthews start to play really well. I mean, 2 assists. He blending in with the interesting first line as well, which of course we discussed in yesterday's video. And speaking of the game yesterday, Jake McCabe is fine. We saw him leave the game and not returning yesterday's game. He doesn't expect to miss any time, which is the last thing they need, even though they do have depth in the blue line. Yanni Hakanpää can slide in there, Philip Myers, but Jake McCabe has been a very important to this team, especially, fresh off that contract extension as the season got underway here. Very important that he is back. And do you have any quick thoughts on Jake McCabe's game so far? He's been very impressive. I'm liking the way he's playing. And when he went down with the injury and didn't return, I was a little bit worried that they were going to continue to run this cycle of continued games without their full core, but looks like he'll be back and ready to go, and seems like he'll be ready to go on Monday, and which is huge because again, that blue line looked very, very good yesterday against the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that's not quite as good as they once were, but still very solid.
Right behind the Leafs in the standings, though, so it was a big win for the Leafs, definitely to keep pace with the Florida Panthers, only 1 point behind now. But yeah, Jake McCabe, he's a big part of this team, played in his 600th NHL game yesterday. This is good news that he's not hurt. He's going to be able to play this week. And he's been really good there on the, I guess, shutdown pair, if we want to call it that, with Chris Tanev the last little while. So when they're playing together, they've been pretty good. So it's a good thing that he's not going to miss any time.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. Obviously, you look at the big moves here. And one thing I do also want to note is that the thing about Alex Steeves and the fact that he has played less than 10 NHL games, I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Steeves comes back up at some point for the Toronto Maple Leafs if injuries go down. He looked solid. He didn't look out of place necessarily. Like, he's obviously not the best out of on the team or anything like that. But I just want to give him a little bit of flowers in case he doesn't get called up anytime soon. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see him again at some point because I felt like he held the third and fourth line fairly well there. But I also want to touch on William Nylander a little bit here, and you can see this. In an article for Sharp Magazine, he spoke about being a Maple Leaf, what it means to him, and what it would mean to win the Stanley Cup with the Leafs. And we're talking about the Stanley Cup. Obviously, they need to see some playoff success, but he is playing really, really good hockey. And he said, Toronto is the first place where I really felt at home. These fans, they're crazy. They're the most passionate fans in the world. I know how much those losses hurt, especially to Boston, but I hope they know it kills me too. I can't say that word. It really does. So I think, and again, there was a bit of conversation towards the start of the season about how the crowd was a little bit dead. I think that's kind of been put to rest. The crowd's starting to look a little bit better, albeit the tickets are ridiculously expensive. So obviously there's still the corporate jargon and things like that. But the fans are looking good. The team is playing really well. And I think, obviously that extension happened last season in the middle of the year. He has been in what has been a season of a lot of, pleasant surprises. I think he's been a guy that has continued to improve rather than get complacent when he got that contract in his contract year last season. And I also think Craig Berube is really getting the most out of William Nylander and Mitch Marner, but specifically in this case, William Nylander. So if he can continue to play like this, I think the sky's the limit for the team and the core. I'm not going to say core four, but the core going forward at the very least.
Yeah, he's been amazing this season, not just this season, but last season. Like you said, he didn't really, plateau or anything. He's continued to get better after he signed that contract, which is a really good sign to me. And he's having a great season. He's on pace to score over 50 goals this year. And I believe that would be the first time in Leafs history that they have back-to-back 50-goal scorers who are different players, not the same player. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, he's been playing great. And to me, every time they get into the playoffs, he's a guy who shows up, right? You can say what you want about Mitch Marner, and we've talked about it on the channel, even Austin Matthews to a degree, John Tavares, all these guys. William Nylander is a constant. He's going to come up big in these games, and he always does, and he did again last year, even though they lost. So he has been fantastic. He wants to win a Stanley Cup here. He's been very vocal about it, and I think that's something that all Leaf fans can get behind because he's playing a lot better defensively, I think. You can't deny him on offense. I mean, he's fantastic, and he has that drive. He wants to win here. So looks like they put together a pretty good team so far this season, and I'm excited to see what they do down the stretch.
Yeah, and the contract sent a message to him, obviously, that he wants to be here for a while and that they want to win a championship with him. And hopefully this is the first step in that direction. And speaking of defense, you mentioned, fans kind of have a sentiment now that the Leafs have a bit of a different vibe. I don't know if you got made it this far in the video, I want you to leave in the comment section. Do you think that the vibe is going to translate to the playoffs? I do agree that the vibe is very different. New head coach, new scheme, new system, new, almost every coach, Mark Savard, all these different guys. However, like the defense has improved. The goalies are improved. I mean, we have a whole video on the goaltending. They have, I think, 2 out of the top 5 save percentage goalies in the NHL, which is something that is very interesting. Joseph Wall with another phenomenal game yesterday, albeit, I thought for a minute there he was going to maybe get, he gave up 3
A little
goals,
rough at the end.
Yeah, it is what it is. This team, do you have any thoughts on this? I just want to get your thought on it. A trade deadline addition could really help them out. Berube was a good hire too. And I think, we'll have tons of videos talking about a trade deadline addition, all these different things. I think now we're at the point of the season, a bit over the, the quarter mark here. I think the team looks different, and the way that they've responded to me is the biggest thing. They get destroyed, curb stomp, whatever you want to call it, by the Florida Panthers. They come out against a very, great Tampa Bay Lightning team, and they send an absolute message there. That game could have easily been, 5-1. It could have, but ultimately it ended up being 5-3. Very good game. I think the team is bouncing back, and I think that's the mindset that Craig Berube has instilled in them.
Yeah, their ability to bounce back this year has been pretty impressive, honestly. We haven't really seen that in past years, or you'd see like bad losses kind of snowball. So I'm glad that that's not the case. And they held the fort last night in that game as well. Yes, it got close at the end, but they came out with the win. And I think that's something that's a little bit different. They kind of, they were bending, but they didn't break. And for a guy like Roger Lajoie to say that, and I think all Leaf fans are, feeling that right now. He's seen it all, right, in the world of sports in Toronto. So for him to say something like that, I think that it's true. I think it absolutely is true, and they're playing a little bit better. And, I kept saying at the start of the year, let's wait 15, 20 games. Well, we're past that now, and I think all signs are pretty good so far. So I think Leaf fans are pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and a huge bounce back win yesterday, and hopefully they can keep it going. It's going to be a busy week ahead and a busy month ahead for streams. Make sure to tune into that and make sure to subscribe button. See you guys later.